Hi, Jesse from etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at and installing a CURT Custom Wiring Harness on our 2022 Ford Bronco Sport. This is a 4-pole wiring harness that's going to tie into your factory plugs on your tail lights. It's going to make sure that your lights on your trailer, if you're doing any light towing with your Bronco Sport, it's going to make sure those lights are working well. This wiring harness kit comes with a dust cover like this, so a lot of our neighbors will just wrap it around their safety cable loop and plug it into that dust cap, and that will hold it there. But we do also sell brackets that are made to either bolt into a bumper, or there's a no drill bracket that we have that just wraps around your tow hitch, and that'll hold that nice and secure right where you want it. All in all, this is a pretty simple install. It plugs straight into the factory wiring harness. Then you have to run the wire underneath, so if you think it might be a little bit too much, then feel free to check out our dealer network. If you're looking to tackle this yourself, and go ahead and follow my video. First step will be to pull this rubber back to reveal two 10mm screws. Just stick a finger in here and pull straight back with some force. There's two 10mm screws holding the tail light on. Remove those, and then you'll just want to wiggle this tail light out, being very careful, and you'll feel it pop out. Then we'll unplug it right here. Just push the tab in and pull. Set the tail light aside and then repeat that process on the other side. To run our wires through the bottom up to this left side tail light, I just got a piece of airline hose, ran it through a very small hole. It took me a few minutes to get it through, but I'm going to go ahead and tape our connectors. You don't want to tape them like this because there's no way that's going to get through the hole that we have to go through. So I'm going to kind of line them up like this and get a lot of tape around them, just because I don't want those to fall off in the middle of pulling them through. I found it easier to remove these two 7mm screws that hold this fascia here. That way I can get my arm up in there and kind of guide the plugs as they go through. Once we got near the top, I had to kind of twist it around just to get it through this very tight channel that it has to go through. And once I can get my fingers on, I can kind of guide it up. Stuck on something. Twist it a little more and it pulls right through. Once you get the connectors through, you'll want to take the tape off and plug it in just to make sure it won't fall back down. Just plug your male connector into your female connector, make sure that clicks. Then we're ready to plug the tail light in. This new connector, make sure you have it oriented the right way. That'll plug in. Just put that tail light back in place, make sure everything's lined up, and it should pop in. Then you're ready to put your nuts back on. We're going to run our green wire over to our right rear tail light. So I'm going to remove these 4 7mm screws, that way I can tuck the wire up and hide it. So you'll see you have plenty of room up here. There's a bracket. We're just going to run that wire along on top. I will zip tie it later just to make everything look nice, but I want to figure out how much slack I'm going to have. We'll run this over here and then get ready to fish wire it up just like we did on the other side. Just like we did on the other side, we'll unwrap our tape with our airline hose. Go ahead, get that plugged into the factory harness. Then plug our new plug into the tail light and get it put on. Get everything lined up, get those tabs popped in. Put your nuts back on. Just to get our four pole out of the way for the time being, I'm gonna tuck it up and hang it here on our hitch. That way I have more room to work on this side. We'll take our black converter box. There's not really a good place to self-tapper it or stick it to. So what I'll do is zip tie it to this factory harness here. Get a couple zip ties real tight and that thing shouldn't move around at all. So next we're going to have to find a good place to put our ground. I already drilled a pilot hole through this little pinch weld here. You'll take this in the included self-tapper. It's kind of a tight spot. I have a right angle drill adapter here. So I got my power wire extension here. I'm going to connect this using one of these heat shrink butt connectors. This did not come in the kit, but they are available on our website. I'm just going to go ahead and strip this end down. I'll crimp this butt connector up here. We routed our power wire right where that butt connector was, up above the frame, through this. I'm going to zip tie it to the wire harness later. It drops down. After the frame drops down, comes through this panel right under the fuel tank. And I just took a few 10mm bolts down to get this skid plate down so I can just kind of guide it through here. And it comes out right behind the front wheel and shoots up to the engine compartment where our battery is. Now here under our hood we have our fuse that we need to hook up to the battery. We're just going to cut this about halfway and strip it. We're just going to use a ring terminal to connect to the positive battery post. Just a thick wire. Twist the end. Get that in there. And get your crimpers and crimp that. Strip the other end and put a butt connector on it so we can connect it to our main power line. Crimp that. We're ready to connect to the battery. I got a 13mm nut here I'm going to remove. Make sure your fuse is not inside here. And go ahead and hook that up and tighten it down. I'm going to run this down behind the engine so we can hook it up with our power wire. And I'll strip it. We can go ahead and install our fuse now. Now we're ready to test the system. So we have our tester hooked up. You can buy one of those on eTrailer, or you could hook up your trailer and test that way. I'm just going to run through all the lights. We have our running lights, left turn, right turn, and brakes. So now it's time to just button everything up, put these last pieces together, and that'll do it for the install. So that'll do it for our look at and install of the custom wiring harness by CURT on our 2022 Ford Bronco Sport.